Well then, let us begin where the ache is. Not out there in the world of figures and faces, but where you feel that tightness behind the ribs and call it lack. If supply is of God, why do you feel impoverished? If safety is of God, why do you feel endangered? If worth is of God, why do you feel discounted? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. If that is true, and it is law, not poetry, then why does the addition seem delayed? Now listen quietly. Your problem is not lack. Your problem is the God you are serving. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. This is not a threat. This is not a tribal edict. This is a description of the way the universe is structured. Whatever you enthrone in consciousness as the power to grant or to withhold your peace will, by the law of your own attention, govern you. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And where your heart abides, there your experience gravitates. Cosmic law is not personal. It favors no one. It simply arranges outward conditions to mirror inward reliance. As surely as 2 times 2 is 4, what you worship organizes your life. Do not hear condemnation in this? No. No. Not condemnation, not superstition, not a witch hunt of the mind. We are not here to whip shadows. We are here to make an honest inventory and to bring all reliance home to God. This is not about guilt. Guilt is another false god. This is about recognition. This is about returning the crown to where it belongs. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot divide devotion and keep peace. You cannot rely on money for safety and on God for inspiration and expect harmony. You cannot rely on the body for identity and on God for life and expect freedom. You cannot rely on fear to keep you vigilant and on God to keep you whole and expect rest. The law does not break. We break ourselves against it and then call the bruises fate. I speak not as a judge, but as an instrument. God is the actor. Let him be the actor. I am not in the physical. I am not resting in this body for my peace. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, there is the axis. In my conscious oneness with God, I find the only center that does not move with the weather of the world. When I say oneness, I do not speak of an abstraction. I speak of that inward click, that certainty without emotion, that stillness without lethargy, that assurance without argument, when the reliance returns to God alone and the idols fall without a fight. Before we look at the signs, and we will, we must understand what a false god is. It is anything, any person, any number, any sensation to which you secretly ascribe authority over your peace. It is the thing you check first in the morning to know whether today is safe. It is the measure you dare not violate even to honor love. It is the tribunal you consult when your conscience says one thing and your fear says another. And because law is impersonal, the idol will work for you only long enough to enthrone itself. Then it will demand sacrifice. Peace will be its price, and you will pay it without knowing why you are tired. Let us be careful. We will not fight idols. We will not crusade. No, we will discern, and we will withdraw consent. We will see that money posing as safety is not God. We will see that the body posing as self is not God. We will see that fear posing as wisdom is not God. And then quietly, without drama, we will bring our reliance back to the one. Be still and know that I am God. Not be frantic and fix. Be still and know. Knowing is the release. Knowing is the dethronement. When trust returns to its rightful source, lack dissolves because there never was a vacuum in God. In my oneness with God, I find sufficiency. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it softly, not to get anything, but to acknowledge what is. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And so we begin not with blame, not with effort, but with a turning away from the lesser powers, back to the one power which needs no help and bears no rival. What then is a false god? Not a statue, not a superstition with incense and drums. A false god is the quiet transfer of trust away from the invisible to something visible, countable, or predictable. It is whatever you have secretly appointed to decide whether you may have peace. Look at your morning. Before your feet touch the floor, what do you consult? The news to tell you if the world has permission to be calm, the market to tell you if you have permission to feel safe, the mirror to tell you if you have permission to be worthy, the memory of yesterday's praise or blame to tell you if you may be whole today, the calendar to tell you if there is enough time to be kind. When you consult something before you consult God, you have located a God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me is not a scold. It is a map back to peace. A false god is subtle because it wears the clothing of common sense. Numbers must be watched, bodies must be tended, relationships must be honored. Yes, yes, in their place. But hear me, in their place is not on the throne. When a bank balance becomes the arbiter of your inner weather, you have handed the scepter to arithmetic. When the approval or silence of another becomes the key to your worth, you have enthroned a face in place of the Father. When your own body's sensation declares the verdict of who you are, you have mistaken the temple for the tenant. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. I am not in the physical, I am not in numbers, I am not in applause. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, how shall a figure on a screen, a reflection in glass, a rumor in the air, command the peace of that which is one with God? It cannot unless I yield it my consent. Let us practice a little interior honesty. When anxiety rises, what summons it? A headline, a deadline, a scale, a mirror, a memory, a prediction? Do you open your device to receive your mood, as a priest might turn to the oracle? Do you turn your face to the mirror and wait for permission to love yourself? Do you rehearse the conversation you might have and let the phantom of tomorrow hold your breath hostage today? Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Two masters cannot divide your trust and leave you whole. That is not religion, that is law, as exact as 2 times 2 is 4. Whatever you worship organizes your life, and there is always a cost. This is the ethical dimension, the part we hope is not true, yet it is. Idols demand sacrifice, because they promise what they cannot be: peace, identity, security. They must be fed continuously. A false god will ask for your truth. Say what flatters the number. It will ask for your kindness. Be harsh if it protects the image. It will ask for your rest. Sleep later. Control must be maintained. It will ask for your generosity. Give only if it returns to you with interest. It will ask for your integrity. Do right when seen. Do anything when measured. They are never satisfied, for they are made of your fear and your longing, stitched together by imagination. And because law is impersonal, the moment you consent, your life begins to lean toward the altar you have built. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Not because a God is angry, but because consciousness is cause and experience is echo. Now, do not hear this as a call to battle. No, no. We do not smash idols with hammers. We remove the belief that they have power. We return the throne to its rightful occupant by recognizing the nature of the one we call I. Where are you when you say I? In the head, in the chest, in a bank, in a mirror? Try to localize it and you will see the folly. You cannot leave the body because you are not in it. You are not in circumstance to be lifted out by circumstance. The I that says I and knows that it says it is spiritual, non-local, indivisible, because it is the very offspring of God. I and my Father are one, not two, not sometimes, one. If this is so, and it is, then the only safe reliance is upon that oneness. Every other reliance is a short rope tied to a moving wagon. So the definition is simple in searching. A false God is whatever you trust to grant or withhold peace. It may be a balance sheet. It may be a compliment. It may be a diagnosis. It may be a prophecy of doom whispered by your own nervous system. It may even be your religion, if you try to use God as a technique to secure your idol. But peace is of God. Identity is of God. Security is of God. Therefore, to give their keys to anything else is to wander outside the gate of our own house and then beg to be let back in. Be still and know that I am God. Not be busy and make it happen. Be still and know. The stillness restores the order. The knowing withdraws consent. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness, my safety, my worth. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Whisper it, not to barter with heaven, but to remember home. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And as that remembrance dawns, the idols lose their appetite, for there is nothing left to feed them. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. And the instrument at rest in the musician's hands does not fear the notes. Now let us be very clear on this point of law, for here is the moral gravity. You do not break a law of God, you meet it. A bridge builder does not break the law of engineering, he meets it. If he disregards the tensile strength of steel or the compression limits of stone, the span will fail, not because a deity is offended, but because the principle is exact. 2 times 2 is 4, not sometimes, not when we are in the mood. 2 times 2 is 4, and if you build as if 2 times 2 is 5, the collapse is in the blueprint before the first rivet is driven. So it is with spiritual law. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Do you hear anger in that? No. No. You hear accuracy. You hear the impersonal certainty that what is entertained as cause must appear as effect. Do not imagine that idols punish because they are vindictive. They cannot be, for they have no life in themselves. They punish because they are finite. Lean your full weight on a twig and do not be surprised at the fall. Rely on number as your peace, and competition becomes your atmosphere, control becomes your reflex, comparison becomes your diet. There is never enough number to quiet a heart that has forgotten God, because number is quantity and peace is quality. Make a face yours or another's the arbiter of worth, and fear becomes your tutor. You will spend and spend to protect the image, and the bill will be paid in restlessness. Make the body your identity, and every sensation sits robed like a judge. 1 ache dethrones your joy. 1 wrinkle edits your value. 1 diagnosis turns tomorrow into a courtroom. It is not malice, it is mathematics. What you worship organizes your life. Now hear a warning I have learned at cost. Do not attempt to use spiritual truth for a selfish end. Don't ever tamper with a cosmic law, because it is a double-edged sword. If you try to wield it to get a person, or a position, or a number on a screen, you have already confessed another God. You have said, I will take the infinite and employ it to secure the finite. You may get your person and lose your peace. You may get your job and lose your integrity. You may get your number and lose your sleep. With what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. The rebound is built in, not by wrath, but by rule. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. The law of love will not serve a loveless plan without circulating its cost right back to the architect. I know the temptation. The mind says, if this presence is real, then let it do as I bid. Heal this, fix that, fill this account, reverse that judgment. No, the presence is not a servant of desire. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. When the instrument begins to clutch and conduct a private concert, discord is inevitable. In the silence, we do not aim the infinite, we yield to it. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and get. Be still and know. And in that knowing, the finite props collapse, but we do not, for we were never resting on them. Why is this important now? Because if you regard these next examinations as a list of sins, you will meet condemnation. But if you regard them as instruments for diagnosis, you will meet freedom. The law is impersonal. Therefore, exposure is mercy. When we see that a certain reliance is violating principle like placing a support where the load cannot be borne, we do not curse the beam, we move it. We do not plead with mathematics to change, we align our sums. And so gently we will take 7 signs, not to accuse ourselves, but to see where the quiet transfer of trust has occurred. Not to be frightened by consequence, but to be sobered by accuracy. Then, without battle, without dramatics, we will return reliance to the one. I am not in the physical, I am not in the number, I am not in the verdict of sensation, absent from the body, present with the Lord. In my conscious oneness with God, I find the only foundation that does not crack under weather or weight. When I rest here, I need not manipulate outcomes, for sufficiency is of grace. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Speak it not as a lever, but as a law. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And now, with this gravity and this gentleness, let us look at the signs not as enemies to fight, but as lights to steer by, so that our worship may be whole and our life organized by the one who needs no rival. Let us take the first light and shine it quietly where many of us wince. Your mood rises and falls with numbers. A green arrow in your heart lifts. A red arrow in your spirit sags. An invoice paid, and the world seems kind. A bill arrives, and the day darkens. A salary posted, and you bless God. A delay announced, and you wonder if God has withdrawn. Who told you God's provision comes in the shape of a paycheck? Who authorized money to interpret your future? Who whispered that arithmetic is the weather of your soul? My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. If the Master says, not as the world gives, why do we accept peace that is given and withdrawn by a screen? Be honest in the secrecy of your own heart. Do you consult the balance before you consult the presence? Does a quarterly report set the temperature of your kindness? Do you find yourself softer when the figures are up and sharper when the figures are down? That is worship. Not of money itself, but of the belief behind it that money is life, that money is safety, that money is identity. And because law is impersonal, the one to whom you grant the keys to your peace will drive your days. Worship number, and you will live by cycles, bull and bear within, feast and famine in your nerves, no matter what the pantry holds. Worship God, and goodness and mercy shall follow, regardless of the market's traffic light. Let me say it as plainly as a blueprint. A number can measure a flow, it cannot cause it. A thermometer records heat, it does not make summer. A gauge on the dashboard tells you what the engine is doing, it does not move the car. Money is an instrument, a channel, a meter. Supply is spiritual substance expressing. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The river is from the mountaintop of God. The pipe in your house can conduct it, but the pipe is not the rain. If the pipe rusts, The mountaintop has not dried up. If one channel constricts, the source remains an infinity that knows how to appear as another channel. All that the Father hath is mine, not all that the market permits, all that the Father hath. Who told you that a digit could diagnose God? Who licensed a ledger to pronounce sentence upon your future? No court has such jurisdiction. No, no. Your spiritual you isn't confined to the material body, and it surely is not confined to an account. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. No accountant has ever found any me inside of a spreadsheet. I am not in the physical. I am not in the number. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. There is my climate. In my conscious oneness with God, I find my completeness, and from completeness, supply appears in forms that meet the need of the hour. Now the exposure, notice, when you check without need, when you refresh a screen to refresh your courage, when you postpone generosity until a graph gives permission, that is the quiet bowing of the head. Do not fight it. Do not scold it. Gently withdraw consent. Sit down. Close the eyes, not for an occult reason, only for comfort, and remove the body and its bills from thought. Wait without bargaining, without asking for more of anything. Wait in a state of receptivity until finally the click comes, the sure sense that the I that says I is one with the infinite. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want, not because the digits glow, but because the shepherd is present. In that moment, money returns to its rightful status, a useful servant that comes and goes, never a master that comes to stay. When numbers control your inner weather, money has become your God. Let the weather return to heaven. Let the Son of God's sufficiency rise from within, and you will find that commerce externalizes lawfully without the whip of fear. You will pay what is yours to pay and give what is yours to give without tightening the fist around peace. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Speak it softly, not to squeeze more coins through a narrow pipe, but to remember the mountain and the rain. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and in that remembrance the digits can rise or fall while you abide steady as law in the one who neither rises nor falls. Here is the second sign, and it stings because it is simple. You compromise love to feel secure. You withhold generosity when a ledger frowns. You shade truth to keep a contract. You overwork those who trust you so your image will not slip. You neglect your children, your aging parent, your own soul's Sabbath, and call it providing. You flatter a superior you do not respect to armor, a position you do not love. You make a promise elastic so it will stretch over your fear. That is worship. Not of the deed, but of the hidden principle behind the deed, that safety can be purchased by injuring love. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. If security requires harming love, you are obeying a false god. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. This is not embroidery on a wall. This is a measuring rod of God firstness. Because if God is first, love is immediate. Love does not ask permission from fear to be kind. Love does not delay itself until the numbers smile. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. If in the name of safety you make your brother pay for your fear less wage, less truth, less presence, you have announced your altar. And because law is impersonal, experience will be organized around that altar. With what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. Measure out suspicion, and suspicion will be the taste on your own tongue. Measure out scarcity, and you will count your sleep. Do not think the idle harmless because it is dressed as prudence. No, no. Prudence is love with eyes open. Idolatry is fear using prudence as a mask. How do you know which is which? Very clean. If the act asks you to be less loving than you are made to be, it is not prudence, it is worship of a lesser power. The law is exact. A builder who accepts a crooked ruler calls collapse into the future. It is already in the blueprint. So too, whenever you bend love to protect an image, the fracture is in the beam. You cannot cheat the law of your own being and remain whole. I received a letter once from a man who managed a small factory. A quarter ran thin. He postponed raises, quietly shaved overtime, delayed a supplier's payment while approving a bonus to keep the bank from blinking. He slept with a ledger in his chest. One night his daughter left a drawing on his desk, him behind a fence of tall numbers, while she stood on the other side with a ball. He wrote, "In that moment I saw the altar." He paid the supplier. He sat with his crew and told the truth without drama. He gave back 2 Sundays to his children before the numbers had improved. He waited in silence for the click. He said, "I and my Father are one." In a month, an old client returned with a contract that more than covered the raises. But the better was this: his house breathed again. The idol had been dethroned without a fight. Let me say it gently and firmly. Security is not hoarding. Security is union. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Not because I have ringed my life with fences, but because the shepherd is present. I am not in the vault. I am not inside a contract. No accountant has ever found any me inside of a term sheet. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, there is my safety. In my conscious oneness with God, I find the only security that does not ask me to betray love. Then giving does not threaten being. Then truth does not threaten bread. Then rest is not a gap in provision, but a gate for grace. How do we release this? We do not argue with fear. We withdraw consent. The next time an action asks you to be less loving in order to feel safe, be still. Close the eyes, not for an occult reason, only for comfort, and wait without bargaining until the click comes. Whisper, "Be still, and know that I am God." Choose love, pay fairly, tell the unadorned truth, return home when love calls, and let the law arrange the form. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, and shaken together, and running over. Not as a barter, but because giving reveals what you are. And if you fail, and sometimes you will remember, forgive 70 times 7. You have as much right to forgive yourself as to forgive your neighbor, and begin again at the altar of one. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it softly when the contract looms. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it when the budget tightens and the child is asking for your eyes. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And in that remembrance, love stands up inside you, unafraid. And the false god that demanded tribute of kindness finds no worshiper left. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. Let love, which is God, govern the turn. Then security and love are no longer at war, for they are found as one. Life flowing, one law keeping, one peace unbroken. Now we come to a sign that sits very near the skin. Your body becomes a tribunal. You rise and consult the mirror to receive your sentence for the day, worthy or unworthy, permitted joy or denied it. You touch the scale as if it were an oracle. You run the fingers to the face, to the waist, to the places you have appointed as courts, and you listen for the verdict. Good enough? Still acceptable? You scroll images and compare bone to bone, youth to youth, past to present, as though the calendar were a prosecuting attorney. A twinge appears and the mind drafts a future in gray ink. A new regimen is adopted as if salvation were powdered, bottled, or timed. The body, then, is judge and jury. It calls you to the stand and insists, "Swear by me." The moment your body determines your worth, the body has become your God. Hear me gently and exactly. I am not in the physical. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. When I say I, How will you localize that? Here, here, no, no. You can't leave the body because you aren't in it and never have been in it. The body is not the tenant. It is the temple wherein the presence is honored. It is not the life, it is the instrument upon which life plays. Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost which is in you? A temple is to be kept, to be cleaned, to be lit, yes, but never to be worshipped. Worship belongs to the indwelling. Stewardship tends the temple. Idolatry bows to it. What does idolatry look like here? You postpone kindness to yourself or to another until an image in glass gives permission. You refuse to enter joy because a line is stretched or a hair is thinned. You imagine destiny tied to a diagnosis as if the infinite could be bound by a lab report. You allow appetite to tyrannize or denial to tyrannize, always with the same hidden premise: my peace is at the mercy of this form. But man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. And the heart here means the center, the I that is one with God. I and my Father are one. If that is so, and it is, how shall a wrinkle dethrone oneness? How shall a scar edit the I that God is being? Do not mistake me for promoting neglect. No, no. The law is love. Love bathes, love rests, love walks. Love feeds the instrument with what keeps it lucid and light for service. Love says to the body, thank you, friend. Be comfortable while we pray, while we work, while we play. Love does not starve or stuff to bribe a mirror. The distinction is surgical. Stewardship is care without identity. Worship is identity without care for truth. You will feel the difference. When you are stewarding, peace precedes the practice. When you are worshiping, panic drives it. One is gratitude, the other is bargaining. Cosmic law is impersonal. What you worship organizes your life. If you enthrone the body, you will live under its moods. You will count peace by pounds and years, and fear will be your physician. You will become harsh with yourself and then harsh with others, for idols always demand sacrifice. But if you enthrone God, the body resumes its rightful office, a beloved servant. And because law is exact, the life that you are spiritual, indivisible, will appear as appropriate harmony in the instrument, as rest that mends, as appetite that is sane, as tone that is bright, as function that cooperates with purpose. The Spirit of Him that raised up Jesus from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies. Do you hear magic? No, you hear order. Life flows from the root to the branch when the branch stops pretending it is the tree. Try this. Sit down. Be comfortable. Close the eyes, not for any occult reason, only to remove the temple from the foreground. Let the hands rest. Withdraw thought from muscle and from mirror. Refuse to ask for beauty, for youth, for a particular vitality. Desire nothing. Wait in a state of receptivity until the click comes the unargued knowing of oneness. Whisper, be still, and know that I am God. Whisper, in Him we live and move and have our being. In that moment, something shifts. You find you are not a body trying to reach God. You are consciousness in God, letting God live your life through a body. Then rise and tend the instrument as love instructs. Walk if love says walk. Sleep if love says sleep. Eat what leaves you light and useful, but do not ask the mirror for permission to be whole. Do not ask the scale for a license to be kind. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Take thought for God. Seek first the kingdom, and the forms will clothe themselves as they must. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not the cream, not the regimen. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, there is your worth, your beauty, your continuity. And as trust returns to its rightful source, The tribunal adjourns, the gavel is laid down, and the temple is filled with song. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. Let the music play. Now another light, and this one stalks us in the night. You live as if one mistake can destroy you. You shuffle through the day with a sentinel posted at every doorway of choice. You rehearse disasters before they audition. You scan the horizon for the loose screw, the wrong word, the missed turn, the email not answered quickly enough, as if fate were waiting with a stopwatch and a gavel. You call it prudence. You call it excellence. You call it responsibility. No, no. Prudence is love with wisdom. Fear is worship under an alias. When you grant fear the power to crown or crush your day, fear has become your God. Listen to the theology of fear, because it is a theology. It claims omnipresence. Danger is everywhere. It claims omniscience. It knows what is about to go wrong. It claims omnipotence. One misstep and all is ruined. Only God is everywhere. Only God knows. Only God is power. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Fear is not a presence. It is a suggestion accepted. It is a shadow casting itself as substance, a rumor spoken in the tone of a decree. It cannot enter without consent. It cannot rule without your amen. Cosmic law is impersonal, and what you worship organizes your life. Bow to fear, and you will live by its liturgy. Tightness before you begin, apology before you speak, control before you love. The thing which I greatly feared has come upon me, says Job, not because the universe is cruel, but because law has reflected back the altar at which the heart stood. How does this worship show itself? Hypervigilance masquerading as virtue, catastrophizing baptized as planning, the soul demanding guarantees before it gives kindness, the mind refusing stillness unless it can pre-write the outcome. You will not step until tomorrow signs a contract. You will not rest until the locks are checked a seventh time. You will not say yes to joy without insuring against sorrow. That is not prudence, that is fear in a choir robe. And because law is exact, your world will shrink to the size of your caution. The bridge builder who calculates every beam as if a feather would collapse, it will never cross the river. The soul that treats life as a courtroom will find no playground for grace. Now hear the counter-testimony, and let it be simple. God alone is power. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Presence, not prediction, is our safety. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Not because the valley is removed, but because the shadow has no law to enforce. Perfect love casts out fear, not by wrestling it, but by being what it is. You do not fight darkness. You turn on the light. You do not wrestle a shadow. You look to the object that throws it and see that it is nothing. So we do not battle fear with willpower. We do not argue with it, bargain with it, or hire it as an advisor. We withdraw consent. Sit down. Be comfortable. Close the eyes not for an occult reason, only to remove the scene from the foreground. Let the hands rest. Allow breath to be as it is. Desire nothing. Refuse even the desire to be unafraid. Wait in a state of receptivity until the click comes the simple, authoritative knowing, I and my Father are one. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and get a guarantee. Be still and know. In that knowing, authority shifts. The throne is occupied again by the one to whom it belongs. Say quietly what is true of identity. I am not in the physical. I am not in the future. I am not in the verdict of an outcome. No surgeon has ever found any me inside of a body. No calendar has found any me inside of a date. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, there is my safety. In my conscious oneness with God, I find a sound mind, and decisions are made from peace instead of panic. Then prudence becomes love's servant again, clear eyes, steady hands, without the lash of dread. You will check the lock once and sleep. You will plan and then release. You will speak and let tomorrow be tomorrow. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. And when fear knocks and it will give it no hearing, return to silence, return to oneness. Whisper as a password that opens no door to terror, but every door to grace. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then rise and live as one already kept, and watch how the world reorganizes when the hidden ruler has been removed. Here is a fifth sign, and it wears practical shoes. You cannot be still without reaching for control. Notice it without accusation. You sit, and the hand moves of itself to the phone, to the inbox, to the knob, to the list. You fill the silence with fixing, the rest with rehearsal. If there is a pause, you populate it, plan, check, scroll, adjust, message, monitor, refresh. You call it productivity, stewardship, diligence. No. Stewardship acts when moved. Idolatry moves to avoid stillness. Why does the quiet feel unsafe? Because the false god requires management. Idols cannot keep their thrones without your constant attendance. The moment you are still, their candles go out. Ask yourself plainly, as in a mirror that tells the truth. If God is the actor and the doer and the beer, what am I doing trying to be the actor? What am I defending? What would fail if I stopped propping? If I release my fingers from the panel for 1 minute, which altar do I fear will topple? The answer reveals the God. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and schedule 10 new contingencies. Not be still and draft a better manipulation. Be still and know. If stillness is unbearable, it is because knowing would dethrone a manager you have hired to replace God. Listen to the law. Cosmic law is impersonal. What you worship organizes your life. Worship control, and life organizes itself into a maze of levers. Every sound becomes a signal. Every silence becomes a crisis. You sit at the console like a nervous god of a very small universe, and fatigue becomes your liturgy. In vain ye rise up early, and sit up late to eat the bread of sorrows. Do you hear scolding? No. You hear mathematics. A thermostat that believes it is the sun will keep twisting the dial, never making a day. A gardener who keeps tugging the sprout to make it grow will only weaken the root. A pilot who jerks the yoke every second will tire the craft and never trust the lift that is already there. The remedy is not passivity. It is posture. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. Instrument is not inert. It is responsive. It rests when there is no score. It vibrates the instant the bow touches. It does not write its own music. It does not clutch for sound. It is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. When the instrument posture is realized, activity springs from inner instruction, not from dread. You answer the email that is yours to answer. You mend the hinge that squeaks. You attend the meeting that calls. And between each, there is space holy, unfilled by compulsion, because the source is trusted to continue acting without your supervision. How do we come to this posture? Not by vowing to be less busy while secretly keeping the idol, not by scheduling silence as another way to optimize outcomes. No. We enter the very stillness we fear, not to escape, but to expose. Sit down. Be comfortable. Close the eyes. Not for an occult reason, only to take the panel out of sight. Let the hands rest as witnesses that nothing needs to be held up by you. Refuse even the desire to improve the silence. Desire nothing. Wait in a state of receptivity until the click comes. I and my Father are one. In that click, the hidden engineer is unmasked. The compulsion loses its authority. You discover that the river runs without your stirring the bed. Take no thought for the morrow. That is not negligence. That is law. Thought belongs to today's obedience. Tomorrow belongs to God. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Confidence in what? In the presence that acts. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. Absent from the console, present with the source. I am not in the physical. I am not in the stream of notifications. No surgeon has found any me inside a muscle. No server has found any me inside a feed. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, the right contact, the right word, the right provision are included in the one and will appear as needed without my fretting them into shape. Test it this way. Choose one window of 5 minutes today where your old God usually demands supervision. Lay down the levers. Say within, live thou my life. Fulfill thyself in me. Be still, not as a tactic, but as a truth. When the itch to reach arises, and it will label it gently, alter maintenance. Smile without sarcasm. Withdraw consent. Return to knowing. Then act only if an inner nudge, clean and unhurried, appears. You will discover that doors open on their hinges without your shoulder. You will find that one clear word replaces 40 anxious ones. You will see that outcomes arrive by law, not by lash. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, not my vigilance, not my micromanagement. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. When that refrain is true for you, rest is restored as obedience, activity is restored as music, and the God of control finds no worshiper left in you. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. And in that holy order, life composes itself in harmony you could never have conducted by hand. Here is the sixth sign, and it hides under morals while it wounds love. You need someone or something to be wrong for you to feel right. Watch how the pulse changes when a rival stumbles, how relief rises when the colleague is corrected, how secretly the headline that discredits your opposing party soothes your evening. Notice the comparison, the little inventory you keep of who did more, who saw first, who is owed. You think you are defending principle. Often you are defending an altar that requires an enemy to stay lit. Whenever peace requires separation, an idol is operating. The logic of the idol is always scarcity. It whispers, there is not enough honor to go around, not enough place, not enough love, not enough God. And so rivalry is born, and rivalry is a rehearsal for war, cold at the breakfast table, warm in the boardroom, hot in the street. If ye bite and devour one another, take heed that ye be not consumed one of another. The law is impersonal. What you worship organizes your life. Worship a divided universe, and your days will divide into camps, us and them, mine and yours, right and wrong, as positions to be defended rather than truths to be lived. But hear the law that heals. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. If that is so, and it is, where is the other I must defeat to be whole? Where is the neighbor I may diminish to be tall? We, being many, are one body in Christ, and every one members one of another. One body does not heal a hand by starving a foot. One household does not gain peace by appointing a scapegoat. Judge not that ye be not judged. not because judgment offends a sensitive God, but because judgment seals you into the very measurement you apply. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Measure out superiority, and you will live under its lash, always needing contrast to exist. How does this idolatry dress itself? Moral superiority that warms you like a coat, blame that keeps you from repenting, the subtle thrill of gossip shared as prayer, the way you narrate your generosity against another's failure, the sigh after a partner's mistake that says, "See, I was right to withhold," the relief when the other side looks foolish because then your world feels safer. No, no. Safety that feeds on another's diminishment is bondage. Peace that is purchased by exclusion is fragile and cruel. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. A peacemaker is not a winner of arguments. A peacemaker is one who has no inward war to export. Cosmic law is not personal. If you set up a divided altar, life will reflect it as divided outcomes. It is like mathematics. You cannot violate 2 times 2 is 4 and build a sound bridge. Build your peace upon a subtraction. Subtracting their dignity to add to yours and collapse is in the blueprint. It will show up as thin joy, brittle relationships, crises that require fresh enemies to postpone the reckoning. And in politics, in business, in home, the harvest is the same. Distrust multiplies, and everyone eats the bread of sorrows. How do we release this? We do not win the feud to end feuding. We withdraw consent from the altar that demands an enemy. Sit quietly. Be comfortable. Close the eyes, not for any occult reason, only to take the tribunal of comparison out of view. Desire nothing. Refuse even the desire to be proved right. Wait in a state of receptivity until the click comes simple, irresistible knowing, I and my Father are one. And if I am one with the Father, I am one with all the Father as being, as neighbor, as rival, as stranger. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, ye have done it unto me. In that click, the rival becomes member, the stranger becomes kin, the enemy becomes a suffering place in the one body where love is asking to flow. Then practice the arithmetic of the kingdom. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing that I have, there is no possibility of a war. Want nothing, not their approval, not their apology to license your peace, not their failure to validate your worth. Want God alone, and watch how law rearranges the scene. You will tell the truth without theater. You will correct without contempt. You will disagree without exile. And sometimes you will be silent, because love will have done more by not rehearsing the case again. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. Say within, and let it be your password in every meeting, kitchen, and comment thread, Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not their mistake, not my advantage. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I am not in the physical. I am not in the tribe. No surgeon has found any me inside of a label. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, I stand in the one, life where no comparison lives. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. And as the instrument ceases to steal a song from another's silence, harmony returns, and peace no longer depends on anyone being wrong to be right. Here is the 7th sign, and it is the last mask to fall, because it wears the face of prayer. You try to use God to serve the idol. Hear it in the phrasing. If I affirm long enough, the deal will close. If I meditate properly, the body will behave. If I tithe, the numbers will go up. If I declare truth, they will apologize. Prayer becomes bargaining. Meditation becomes manifestation. Truth becomes a lever. God is cast as a very powerful errand runner to fetch what fear has chosen. what vanity has chosen, what control has chosen. No, no. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. The subtlest idolatry is using God as a tool to keep the idol. Listen to the law. Cosmic law is impersonal. You cannot break it. You meet it. When you attempt to harness spiritual principle for a selfish end, you walk into the double edge of the sword. As ye have done it unto one of the least of these, ye have done it unto me. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Use the holy to sanctify greed, and the harvest is hunger, even with full cupboards. Use the name to secure dominance, and the harvest is isolation, even with applause. It is like mathematics. You cannot force 2 times 2 to make 5 because you prefer it today. The bridge will collapse upon the one who insists. It is like electricity. You may wire the house with brilliance, but if you cross the circuits to light straw, the fire does not care that your motive was a sermon illustration. Do not tamper with the cosmic law. I say it protectively. I have studiously avoided mental and physical manipulation, and I hope you will never try to do it. But what then is prayer? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Seek the presence for the presence. Seek God for God. Let outcomes be fruit, not bait. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Not because you coached God into your plan, but because in delight heart discovers what it truly desires, the will of God. When God is the motive, the evidence follows by law. When evidence is the motive, anxiety follows by law. Test it. If peace depends on the outcome, you are bargaining. If peace precedes the outcome, you are in prayer. We cannot use God. God uses us. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. The instrument does not pull the bow to extract the solo for its ego. The bow comes, and the instrument yields, and music happens. Not my will, but thine be done. That is not passivity. That is alignment with the only will, that is love itself. In that alignment, the forms required by love appear of themselves, each in their order, sometimes a yes, sometimes a no, sometimes a door, sometimes a closed door, that is mercy. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. How then to pivot from technique to truth? We do not fight the idol, we starve it by withdrawing the bribe. Sit down, be comfortable. Close the eyes, not for any occult reason, only to remove the wish list from the stage. Let the hands rest, desire nothing, refuse even the desire for a result. Wait in a state of receptivity until the click comes quiet, authoritative knowing. I and my Father are one. In that click, you will find that what you thought you wanted calms, and the want becomes willingness. Live thou thy life, fulfill thyself in me. Then a phrase is given, not to move the world around, but to let the world be moved through you. A call is made without pressure. A doctor is seen without terror. A contract is signed without clutching. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Do not accuse yourself for past bargains. Forgive yourself 70 times 7. Idols are embarrassed by daylight. They do not survive exposure. Simply notice when the holy words are being used as a key to a lesser door. Smile and withdraw consent. Return to the one, absent from the body, present with the Lord, absent from technique, present with truth. I am not in the physical. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a method. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, the right form will be added as fruit, not forced as proof. Let this be our password, not to unlock idols, but to rest in sufficiency. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, not numbers, not approval, not the mirror, not the outcome. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. When grace is sufficient, there is nothing left to manipulate, and the subtlest idol finds no worshiper. And now, gently, we turn from disclosure to release, not with struggle, not with shame, but with the simple act of giving God back God's own throne. Now, hear the mercy in this. You do not need to fight what never had law. You do not destroy an idol. You stop feeding it your attention, your fear, and your identification. Resist not evil, not because we make peace with wrong, but because we refuse to give shadow the substance of our gaze. Turn, withdraw, consent. The altar without a worshiper becomes a table again. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Not stand tense, stand still. Freedom is not won by wrestling a phantom. Freedom is received when trust returns to the one who is already present. The key to this turning is identity. When I say I, where are you going to localize that? In the bank? In the mirror? In next Thursday? No. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. No auditor has ever yet found any me inside a ledger. No mirror has ever found any me inside a face. No calendar has ever found any me inside a date. Therefore, I cannot be imprisoned in a sum, in a reflection, in a forecast. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. That is the I that cannot be taxed by numbers, judged by appearances, or threatened by tomorrow. When identity shifts, the idol loses its address. Then the first commandment ceases to be a plaque and becomes breathing. One presence, one power, one life. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Practice that, not as debate, but as deference. Acknowledge the one as the only authority in this moment. Say within, simply and truly, God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Do not lean on the old altar. Do not lean on the mood of the market, the mirror's verdict, the threat of an outcome. Lean into presence. Wait until the click comes quiet, authoritative union. I and my Father are one. Then act, if act you must, from that union. How do you know the idol is loosening? Ethics becomes easy, not rule book easy, heart easy. Love begins to move without argument because the heart is no longer starving. More honesty appears. You tell the truth even when it costs an advantage, and you find the cost was a fiction. More generosity flowers. You pay the invoice on time. You add the apology you owe. You give the first choice to another not to be superior, but because sufficiency has ended the scramble. More patience becomes natural. You do not lash at the child or the clerk or the body, because time is not your God and speed is not your Savior. By their fruits ye shall know them. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore love is the fulfilling of the law. When the one is acknowledged, the many are blessed. This is not passivity, it is posture. Withdraw the bribes, attention, fear, identification. When the thought flashes, you must fix this now or else. Label it gently, alter, maintenance. Smile, withdraw consent, return to knowing. When the mirror praises or condemns, refuse recruitment. I am not in the image. When tomorrow threatens or seduces, refuse relocation. I am not in the forecast. Be still and know that I am God. In that stillness, the river of law carries its own raft. 2 times 2 is 4. It requires no strain to be true. So with spirit, Where the one is acknowledged, order appears of itself. Say softly, as the password that does not move idols but removes their worshiper. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace, not my alarm, not my schemes, not my charm. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In my oneness with God, I find completeness, security, peace. And as trust returns to the source, the throne is righted without a struggle, and life by law finds its harmony. Let us make this very simple, very human, and entirely holy. Sit. Do not make a ceremony of it. A chair that does not ask your back to labor, feet where they find the floor. Let the hands rest where they do not need to hold anything on the lap, open or closed. Close the eyes, not for any occult reason, only to take the scene off the stage. Let the shoulders be without assignment. Allow breath to be breath. In this position, with your eyes closed, be virtually unaware of having a body, not because the body is despised, no, because attention is consenting to be absent from the body, present with the Lord. Now, refuse enterprise. Refuse even the enterprise of getting spiritual. We are not projecting, not visualizing, not bargaining, not composing a better world. Desire nothing. Make no list. Take no thought for the morrow. Do not even take a thought for this minute's improvement. Come empty, as a cup that does not instruct the water. Say within, once without pressure, be still, and know that I am God. Then stop, know nothing on purpose. Wait. What is this waiting? It is receptivity without aim. It is the instrument that does not tug at the bow. It is the seed that does not pry its own shell. You are not trying to find God as if God were lost in the cushions. You are letting God be as God always is. The kingdom of God is within you. Therefore, we are not reaching out. We are consenting to within. If thought parades about the market, the mirror, the meal, do not wrestle. Wrestling is worship by another name. Look once at the parade as you would look at birds crossing the sky, and return to the one. How? By no method. By turning. If a word is needed, let it be light, like a feather that knows the wind will carry it. I and my Father are one. Then let even that go. Gradually, sometimes quickly, sometimes like dawn that does not have a moment when it begins, there is a quiet shift. I can describe it, but I cannot deliver it. It is as if the room inhales and holds its breath in peace. It is as if an inner door that was never locked yields without sound. A click, not a sound in the ear, a certainty in the heart. No fireworks, no trance, just the end of reaching, because presence is self-evident. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. You will recognize it by this. Peace is not manufactured. It is discovered. Safety without a reason. Sufficiency without an inventory. The one is present unmistakably, and you need not announce it to yourself. Stay there. Do not try to keep it. Do not try to deepen it. Attempts to hold will lift it out of sight. Be the instrument that vibrates because the music is playing. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual beings. And I, dear, do not repeat it like a chant unless the Spirit gives it. Let it be the fact you are resting in. If thoughts return, as they will give them no courtroom, turn once more. Return to stillness. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Confidence in what? In the one that is here. 2 minutes like this are honest wealth. 5 minutes like this are a river changing its course. Do not count the minutes, count nothing. Rise only when it is natural. And if you rise with no message, no prophecy, but only with the sense that God is, you have touched the root. In that touch, Idols lose their voice because they never had law to speak. The source has been found again. Then you will discover that activity later in the day is not driven because the driver is known. And if at midday the old gods call numbers, body, fear, sit again, even for one breath, and return to the password that opens no idol's temple but opens you to reality. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then be still and let grace be what it is. Tomorrow morning will tell the truth, and it will tell it without scolding. His mercies are new every morning. When I awake, I am still with thee. Your first reliance each day reveals your real God, and you can choose again. Not by promising a holier schedule, not by vowing heroic disciplines, but by this quiet measure of trust. Let us make it plain, for law is plain. What you worship organizes your life. And the mercy is this: if for one moment at dawn you return to the one, law begins to reorganize everything without your pushing. Here is the first diagnostic. What do you check first? Watch the hand. Does it go to the phone, to the market tickers, to the inbox, to the mirror, to the scale, to the calendar? Do not accuse it. Observe it. If your interior weather rises or falls with the numbers, if the mirror names your day, if a notification writes your first prayer, you have a God and it has a liturgy. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Not seek ye first the feed, not seek ye first the forecast. Seek the presence for the presence. Before the screen, before the statistic, sit for 1 minute and say without strain, be still and know that I am God, not as technique, as truth. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that acknowledgement, the hand can touch tools without bowing to them. Second diagnostic: what do you fear losing most today? Allow the question to pass through you like a light through a room. If the threat of losing a client or a title or an image or a pleasure tightens the breath, you have located an altar. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. This is not condemnation, it is cartography. Each fear shows you a temple you have built. Now answer it with identity. When I say I, where are you going to localize that? In the roll? In the bank? In the body? No. No. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside a title. No auditor has ever yet found any me inside a ledger. My conscious oneness with God is the I that cannot be evicted. When identity turns, fear loosens, and the idol cannot collect its tax. Third diagnostic: what will you sacrifice love to protect? Watch this through the morning, how quickly you choose sharpness over truth told kindly, secrecy over transparent fairness, advantage over generosity, a curt reply over patient listening at the breakfast table. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. This is not a sentiment, it is cosmic law. Use it as a compass. In each decision, ask, am I loving my neighbor as myself in this? If the answer is no, the needle is pointing at a false God. Do not argue with the compass. Realign. It is like mathematics. 2 times 2 is 4, whether you prefer 5 or not. Ignore it and the bridge fails. It is like a traffic law. Deny the sign and you meet the ditch. If love is not being served, stop, withdraw, consent from the altar, be still, and let action arise only from union. And when you find you have already bowed to another God by 8:15, forgive yourself. You have as much right to forgive yourself 70 times 7 as you have to forgive your neighbor. Guilt is another idol of control. It pretends to pay God with suffering. No. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Condemnation freezes, grace reforms. Each time you return to God, the false God starves, not by drama, by disuse. Withdrawal of attention is fasting, and idols cannot live without your gaze. Make it simple. Before your feet find the floor, whisper, not as superstition, but as surrender. Live thou thy life. Fulfill thyself in me. Then sit 1 minute. Close the eyes, not for an occult reason, only to turn from the scene to the source. Desire nothing. Wait until the faint click of confidence comes. I and my Father are one. Rise. Touch the day with this test in the palm. What do I check first? What do I fear losing? What am I tempted to sacrifice, love, to protect? If you miss the mark, choose again at 10 o'clock, at noon, at 4. When the old gods call, answer with identity. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with every needed idea, contact, provision. Therefore, outcomes are added, not chased. Let your refrain be ready and real, a password that opens you to reality. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace in the morning, thy grace at the email, thy grace in the mirror, thy grace in the loss and in the gain. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. And in that holy measure, tomorrow's God is known by the first reliance and replaced, if it is false, by the one who was here before dawn. Beloved, the arc is plain now. The lesser gods promised life but demanded sacrifice, sacrifice of love, of peace, of your neighbor's dignity, and finally of your own joy. They required maintenance, worry as incense, control as tithe, rivalry as liturgy. But God does not bargain. God is life. God is the very sufficiency you sought in fragments, and asks nothing but recognition. Choose you this day whom ye will serve. Not tomorrow. This moment, one presence, one power, one life. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. When the one is acknowledged, the many are blessed. When grace is sufficient, no false god can govern your peace. Let us end where we must live, in the password that opens you to reality. Slowly now, not as technique, but as truth discovered, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Again, letting each word rest where the heart can hear it. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Once more, with the quiet certainty of Scripture itself. My grace is sufficient for thee. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not the market's grace, not the mirror's grace, not fear's permission. Thy grace, sufficient in all things. Carry it into the morning and let it meet the first glance. Thy grace at the doorstep, thy grace at the spreadsheet, thy grace at the diagnosis, thy grace at the child's question, thy grace in loss and in gain, in moving and in stillness, in speaking and in silence. This is not a charm, this is recognition. In him we live and move and have our being. When the heart recognizes, the law reveals its order. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Now identity is sealed and strain ends. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. The instrument does not hustle music. The instrument consents. Not my will, but thine be done. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body, a balance sheet, or a calendar. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In my oneness with God, I find completeness. In my oneness with God, I find security. In my oneness with God, I find peace. In my oneness with God, I find the joy that does not ask for a reason and the provision that does not beg for a proof. Let love be the outward sign of this inward sufficiency. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor, therefore love is the fulfilling of the law. So you will tell the truth without cruelty, give without counting, correct without contempt, and be still without fear. This is not heroism. It is law obeyed, because grace has ended the scramble. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow from oneness, and you reap the harvest of peace. And now, as we part from words, but not from presence, receive this as benediction and daily bread. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I and my Father are one. Peace, be still. The kingdom is at hand. And so it is. And I thank you